everyone. Welcome to the next episode of the Radio Data podcast. Today our guest is Michał Wróbel, who works as a senior data engineer at RenoFi. Michał, it's my pleasure to have you here.
Hi, Adam. Awesome to be here. I think it's going to be my first podcast that I'm guest to. So, hi, everyone.
Yes, that's great. So let's start, as always, with the introduction. Could you please tell us more about yourself?
Sure. So I'm a data engineer since 2015, but before I had a completely different career and I was just a software engineer. I work as a backend engineer and developing many web services, mainly in Ruby and Rails. And then about 6 years of that career, I thought, maybe I need to change something. So I moved more to DevOpsy. And when I was interested in the infrastructure, I also stumbled upon a few people that said that, you would be a great fit for our data team because we need someone that knows stuff about AWS and all DevOps. And that's how my career in data started. So mainly initially it was infrastructure work, but then I was progressing more and more, and now I could call myself a full stack data person that plays still a lot with infrastructure, although last year not so much, and moved to analytics engineering, spent some time with AI, or I would say ML, but to the degree, so I know what things I should know to deliver some work I need to do. And yeah, that's more or less me.
So it probably means that you work on end-to-end projects. Is that true?
That's true. I mainly work on data products. Or recently I was hired at RenoFi to deliver a few data products and also manage data platform at RenoFi. And because of my previous career as a person that can deliver from 0 to let's say 90% of a product, I have a good idea how to do it, how to plan it, how to prepare document, some kind of options, what we can do, and then maintain. Because in my previous company, I spent there 7 years, so I've seen and witnessed a lot of product that started from zero, from just inception when someone has an idea, then we deliver that. After a few years, it was great success, and after another few years, we had to shut it down and create something new because there were not enough people to maintain it.
Yes, so we will be able to talk about the projects that you are currently working on and why and how different competences in data infrastructure, data platform, and data engineering, and also data science can be used to implement them. But let's start with the description of your company. So it gives us a bit more context. And could you please tell us more about RenoFi and also your role at this company?
Right. So at the moment I work at RenoFi, and RenoFi is a platform that helps people that try to renovate their properties to borrow more money with the lowest monthly payment. So imagine you have a property, you bought a new property, or you have an old house and you want to renovate it, you want to add maybe a garage, you want to add maybe even a floor. So we help with big renovation, also small. But you know that after renovation, the value of your property will be higher. And usually when banks lend money or lenders lend money, they just lend you a month of the value the property is worth right now, not after renovation. So RenoFi tries to calculate after renovation value of the property, and the lenders we work with will lend you money of starting of that value. Mm-hmm. So you will be able to lend significantly more than what you could do with other lenders. Mm-hmm. And that entails loads of data points. We have a pretty massive platform where we need to collect loads of data from our customers, from the borrowers that come to site. Then we process. There's a pretty long journey for some of our customers where they need to upload many documents. They need to tell us who they work with. Then we have a process, underwriting process, where we check feasibility of that renovation, whether it's going to happen or not, or how difficult it is. So then when we send documents and a person to a lender, we give a stamp of approval. This will happen. They will finish their renovation for sure, or with a high likelihood. And then lender will lend the money to the borrower. That's more or less the main idea behind the start.
Yeah, it sounds like a great use case for data and machine learning. And you mentioned that you collect a lot of data points. And what is the nature of this data? And how do you actually use this data at RenoFi to make data-driven decisions about the renovations, about the borrowers, and whether a particular loan should be given or not?
Sure. So maybe I will try to tell a little bit about our data platform and the data team maybe at the company, because RenoFi is still not a big company. Maybe we have between 50 and 100 people, and on the tech side, it's not more than 40, I would say. And data team is pretty small, but we started quite early from the beginning. You know how it is. Well, you might know or not know, but in startups, you don't usually start with data teams. You need to have a product. And then you develop product, you try to improve it, find a market product fit. And then when a startup is successful, then maybe afterthought is a data team. At RenoFi, it was a little bit different because our CTO has a data background, and he, from the day one, made really good decisions, which I was pretty happy when I joined. I will tell about them in a second. But where I was planning to go is to talk a little bit about data teams at startups, because I worked in my previous company. I worked in a successful company that had 500 people, a massive data team. But in a sense, I can compare both and say that at startups, it's pretty good these days because of all this modern data stack tooling. So let me start with, the data we collect is all the data that so everything starts with a journey on the website where we have a wizard, we have a questionnaire where people come, they will come through usually, some Google or search engine when they search for a renovation house and loans, and then they will see a questionnaire with many questions. What do you renovate? When do you plan to renovate? What's your FICO score? So we need to ask a few financials questions. How much money you want to borrow, and so on, so on, so on. So this is first stage in a sense, and that's how the lead is created, or a prospect, because not everyone that comes to the website, they might just check how much money we can borrow, what's possible, what's the interest rates, and so on and so on. So that's the first stage. And it's already a big data set of data, many data points. I can't say how many, but a lot. And from then, we have some automated ways to collect credit scores from some partners, and so on and so on. So we try to enrich that information. And that goes to the sales team. And at this stage, one of the data products we have is a lead scoring, or a way to prioritize people. So I can talk a little bit about this later, but just to highlight it, I think in every company you will have this data product. You can call it data product or sales/marketing product, but it requires a lot of data to make a decision which leads or which customer we should prioritize to contact, because in this type of business, making outbound contacts, just making a call to them might be very successful and might finish in a closing a loan. So the next, once we get when people decide to use our platform, then there's a standard flow. They will sign in to their user account, to their portal, like user portal, where they will have to fill in many steps. I'm not sure how many people have a loan or they try to get a loan. It means sending a lot of documents and filling up a lot of forms, checking the history. And on top of just financials, what RenoFi is interested in the renovation. So people that come to RenoFi, they should already have a contractor and a plan. So they obviously they can come and without any plans and just talk with us and say, check the flow, but we will only work and help find a lender once you have a contractor and documents of what you're really doing, because then we check the feasibility of that renovation, whether that will be cost exactly what you said. Wouldn't you go overboard if you're saying you're adding a new floor to your house? Definitely the risk and difficulty of this is higher than I'm renovating just a bathroom and kitchen, for instance. So we have so there are two things. We try to automate it with technology, but we still have a specialist that just go through the projects. They are experts in the field, and they make a decision. We have basically many forms, and they just say, okay, this is feasible. On this item, on adding a new bathroom on second floor, there might be a problem. They underestimated it, and so we will highlight it, and we generate many reports. So at this stage, so this is the renovation underwriting stage where they already uploaded all the documents, and I think a customer has many tasks in which they have to upload some sorts of documents. And in renovation underwriting step, we review all of it. And then when everything is fine, we send it to lender for approval, and they need to wait. So from the business perspective, when it comes to the data, the main 90% of businesses want to have a good view of what's happening. So reports and sorts of monitoring is a second main use case for our data team and what we work on. And I think I would like to focus on it for a while and explain how we do it before I move to, let's say, lead scoring, for instance.
Yes, please.
Okay, so every modern startup, or most of the modern startups, collect a lot of data, and that data is collected by different services, microservices, let's say. For instance, our website will have a different service and different database than the other one that a user account or user platform. It will have another database. There will be, again, another database for renovation underwriting where the reviews happening. So we already have 3 different databases. On top of it, we use Salesforce for sales and marketing. We obviously use some telephony solutions when we make a call, and when to make a call and when to schedule a call with our customers. So there's a plethora of cloud services, external cloud services that we also use. So almost every startup, I would say, have internal databases and external cloud services where, from the business perspective, from CEO perspective, all the leaders, they would like to have all that data in one place. So obviously, you have a different names these days, whether it's a warehouse, whether it's a data lake or data lakehouse, whatever. It's a big database where all your data is in. And I guess in GetInData, that's one of the use cases that you also help with. What we use, and I think it works really well for the startup size as RenoFi, we use modern data stack, as we mentioned. So on the ingestion, to collect all of the data, we use few solutions. We use Stitch and Fivetran, but mainly Stitch. We use Fivetran for all the connectors that we couldn't find on Stitch. And we have maybe few custom scripts written in Meltano that we couldn't find anything on Stitch and Fivetran. But thankfully, both those Stitch and Fivetran, so not sure how, I guess everyone knows those solutions. At least the listeners of this podcast would know. And then we ingest that into BigQuery. So the whole platform at RenoFi is on GCP. And it's I must say it's so in my previous company I worked with Snowflake, Snowflake, and it's probably Snowflake is even, at least according to many people, is better than BigQuery, but I would say that BigQuery is a very decent data warehouse solution. I never had massive problems with it. So then we land data from all those sources into the source data set. So we on our microservices databases, we usually use Postgres, which also map nicely to, it's already relational. So for analysis, it's not a big problem to map it to our transformed layer. So we have loads of data sets with data sources. I also didn't mention, we also collect events through Segment on our website, and that's also go to BigQuery. So we have loads on I think every data team has a diagram that shows what's on the left, all the sources. Everything lands into your data warehouse. In our case, it's BigQuery. And there we use dbt. And dbt was, I think, the biggest change in my career, in data career, what I remember, because it simplified so many things for so many people that I cannot say how happy I am with it at the moment. I remember the times when we had a custom SQL scripts and when we run them on schedule on Airflow, and you need to execute them in order. You have either a one big file, 1,000 lines, just sequential SQL. Now with dbt, just you have all the dependencies, all the doc just there. And we do plenty of things in dbt for the reporting. So then we have that dbt layer where we have obviously all the duplications handled in dbt in the staging layer in base, and then we have marts where we have a specific business models, either for marketing, operations, for sales, and so on and so on. And we try also to do some forecasting. And that is the layer which we expose to our BI tool, which is Looker. And obviously there are many, many other tools, BI tools, Tableau, Mode. Before I joined, we used Mode, but we decided to migrate. I don't remember exactly what was the reasons for that, but I have experience with Looker since my previous company, so I was pleased with that decision. And that's what our business users are using to explore the data and so on. I can talk more about Looker if anyone is interested, but I think it's a very good solution, although on the expensive side. So I know that some people now go for, what's the superset?
Yeah, Superset is open source tools for like data visualization and data exploration. But if we speak about Looker, do you have only internal users at your company that use Looker?
At the moment, yes. In previous company, we had external users. Either we enabled that through iframe. To be honest, I don't remember, but we had external users, and you have that layer of security also in Looker where you can say what people can see. So that's all pretty nice.
And does it also mean that the data that you process and the output of your ETL and analytics pipelines is used only internally by your employees to make better decisions?
Correct. It's for insight reports, checking the performance. So those are 3 use cases, but I didn't mention one more that is not BI related. We also have an activation layer, for which we use HiTouch. What I mean by activation layer, so we have some models that have complex logic. So even for lead scoring, our initial version of lead scoring prioritization was just some heuristics. Our sales managers, business owners decide, okay, we are interested in these people. These people should be, or not these people, this set of features, the set of characteristics of a person we are interested. So there was a big logic, and we were implementing that in dbt. We created, you can imagine, a table, leads, and they would have lead scoring table, let's say, and there was some ID and what's the score. And we would then, through HiTouch, so reverse ETL, whatever, there's also census, but we use HiTouch to extract the data from the warehouse and connect that with Salesforce. And on Salesforce, then our sales department would see, and they could order in Salesforce who people we should contact and reach. And that works really beautiful. HiTouch is a great solution. Back in the days, you had to write your own custom scripts, keep the state. So HiTouch does it for you. You just connect, you say, what's the data source? What's your destination? And HiTouch will handle what has changed on the source. Has it changed on destination? If it didn't change on destination, then I wouldn't even hit and update it. So it has nice notifications. Really easy to integrate with dbt and any data platform. Not sure how many customers of yours are using HiTouch, but works really well.
Okay, so what is also interesting to me is how your data platform and data analytics pipelines adapt to changes. Because we live in the world that changes very fast, and this is clearly visible also in the housing market because inflation and the interest rates are very high. So this definitely changes the customer shopping habits and also how they spend the money and as well how they borrow the money, especially when it comes to house renovation that is usually much more expensive than groceries, vacation, or even buying a car. So do you also need to change your scoring models or other machine learning pipelines in a much faster way those days than before to adapt to the current microeconomic changes?
For sure, definitely everyone sees the changes in the interest rates predominantly for our products. What we still do, we use mix, as I mentioned. We still have heuristics. Heuristics are changing constantly. Our managers look closely what's happening and try based on mainly their expertise decide what we should focus now. We also change at startups things change quicker than in other companies. So the change is the main thing at the startups. So we need to use tools that we know that we can quickly iterate with. But to your specific question, on the lead scoring side, we use mainly heuristics. We also have a ML lead scoring, which is more as a experimental thing that we do and compare. I couldn't say that we use it in full production mainly because it's not true, but we are planning to. But to do this, I could talk about this a little bit from the day, what solutions we decided to use and what I've seen previously in the company. And I couldn't say I'm an expert from the data science perspective because I'm mainly a data engineer, but you need to have one of the challenges I see is to have a good ML solution that is operationally sound, in a sense that we have a good set of when you retrain, you define when you retrain, how you monitor it, how you make sure, do you do if you uncertain of the metrics that you collect, what the data, and so on and so on. So on that side, in startups, it's still really hard because you don't have too many people. So one of the things which I enjoy working in startup, that I can do more with less, and by less I mean fewer people, and yeah, sometimes you need to don't go for a shiny solution like ML. You just use heuristics, which will be good enough, will provide good enough business results, because cost of a proper ML solution is really high. I can talk a little bit about this. So it's fairly, these days at least, it's fairly easy to have a batch ML predictions comparing to online predictions. And we've been playing with that. And for batch ML, on Google, you can use dbt with BigQuery ML. And that's what we've been trying to do. In BigQuery ML, obviously there's one pain point, because usually data scientists are used to Python, and all the transformation they do, they've been learned in Python, and that's the main thing they're using. But because dbt these days is such a success, and you can ask, SQL is a lingua franca of data, and everyone knows it. So I was pushing people to just do all the transform. Obviously, exploratory data analysis, usually you use notebooks and Python, and then you learn what features are good predictors of whatever. And so we still talk about in the scope of lead scoring maybe, or some classification problem. The scope is business problems, where usually it's how likely is that this lead will close based on some observations. So batch predictions, you don't really have to worry for feature store, because your feature store is BigQuery, your warehouse, and dbt layer, it's where you transform all the data. You can transform a dbt model that will be just features table, and then you can use exactly the same for training and prediction, and you can set it up on schedule even inside dbt with BigQuery ML, and that's what we've been doing. We had a incremental dbt model that was calling BigQuery ML. We trained some model, use this data set, and just run. So we didn't have to have a separate workflow manager. I didn't mention that, but we used dbt Cloud for all the dbt related scheduling. We didn't. So as you might know, to set up Airflow, then to set up a feature store, to set up another thing, whatever. So all the solutions in small teams, it's a massive cost, and maintenance cost, I don't even want to talk about, because you can set it up. I've done that in the past, and it's all fine. It's easier. But then, okay, you need to update it. You need to make sure it works. You need to set up monitoring. That's not, I wouldn't say it's feasible for a small team, or it's if you want to have it running on the good level, a good quality level, then you would have to have someone that doesn't have a life in a sense.
Yes. So this might happen.
So as I mentioned, we want to do more with less. So we wanted to focus on tools that we see keep developing. I have a huge faith in DBT. Last week there was a DBT Coalesce conference. Not sure whether anyone from your company watched it or did you watch it. But I was surprised. I think yesterday I got some summary, and there's a YouTube playlist, and there are 120 videos. I was really shocked that there's so many speakers talk at that conference. That's outrageous. I listened to a few. All of them are great. So anyone who listens to this podcast, I would recommend you go find on YouTube this playlist from this year from DBT Coalesce. There's a few great talks. But anyways, going back. So just to summarize, that's a batch predictions of some model that you develop, and then still this is not simple. You solved batch predictions. You use DBT, but then you still need to monitor what's the performance. So you need to set up some kind of monitoring tool to say, on this day, you need to check your ground truths later. You need to retrain the model from here and there. And still, this is still a lot of work for a small team, but we know that results will be better than heuristic because people are just people. So this is batch. When it comes to online prediction, and which we try to do now, and I see how many problems from operational ability it has. Because now you don't rely only on your warehouse where you have data for training and prediction, but from online prediction, the data will come from other system that might have that data. It might have a subset of that data or all of that data. But you are not 100% sure that the data will be the same. There is this common problem, training prediction data skew, where you might train your model on the data, but when you try to predict the customer of this model might have maybe in one field just a different some data. Maybe they uppercase, lowercase, whatever. It might be a little bit different because on the warehouse in DBT maybe transformed it. So this is one thing that you need to remember. And a common solution for that are feature stores, which adds a massive complexity to the system, in my opinion, because you need to have someone to develop the solution and maintain it, and you need to change your experience. You standard workflow, let's say with DBT, to have working on top of that feature store. So I guess you've seen that as well.
Yes. I think that I understand what you mean. So it's about having a very pragmatic approach and focus first on the most critical functionalities because they usually bring the most value, the biggest value. However, there are companies that must develop real-time online machine learning solutions from day one to exist because their core business model requires them. So one example is FreeNow, a multi-mobility company, or Uber or Bolt or similar app. For example, they need to calculate the price of the ride dynamically in real time based on actual supply and demand. And this changes all the time. And they also need to predict the estimated time of a driver arrival. The same about estimated duration of your ride so that you know when you reach the destination and so on. And if they do it well, they will win drivers, customers, and they will earn money. But if they do it badly, they will simply lose money. So in their case, real-time and machine learning is a must-have solution, and they need to keep investing and improving it all the time, especially at their scale.
Correct. That's their core business product or core business value that they give. So in this case, it's obviously you have to do it. What I'm saying is there's in some segments of startups where you don't have, when your core business is not a strict prediction, the cost of ML are bigger or are big. You need to invest a lot in your ML solution. So that's what I wanted to say, and that's what we see, and we still wait what we should do because the costs are just big to deliver a good solution and that's what we want to do. We don't want to do a sloppy work.
Yes, I agree. So when you look at various companies, especially at startups that focus on productivity and building their product in iterative way, in most cases, building a serverless modern data platform using cloud-managed technologies and implementing batch pipelines and basic ML solutions is what they actually need the most. And in many cases, it's good enough for them, and they don't really need to build fancy ML solutions or real-time online machine learning models because it might be too expensive for them or not really necessary for their core business. Of course, everyone would love to see the updated dashboards a little bit earlier or get notifications a little bit sooner, or provide more personalized offering to their customers, but this also introduces a number of challenges. And you described some of them earlier in one of your answers. However, what I would like to add is that thankfully building real-time solutions or powerful ML AI models becomes simpler and cheaper thanks to new technologies and new tools. So it's likely that in a few years it will be no-brainer to use them by default because the additional costs and efforts to build them will be relatively small. So to summarize this, I agree that it's good enough to build a cost-efficient solution that gives you, for example, 80% of what you really want, and then you can make an educated decision if it makes sense to improve this solution to get an extra 1% or extra additional 1%. And this often depends on your scale. So for example, if you are the largest Polish bank with over 10 million of customers and you give so many loans to different people or companies, then improving your credit risk machine learning model by each 1% can be a big win for you. Because at this scale, it translates to significant gains so that you can spend time and effort on improving this machine learning model and do custom data science and data engineering work. And this, of course, depends on each company, on its scale, its priorities, and the nature of their business model.
Definitely. So as I said, obviously priorities on different scale of companies are different in a sense. So the Pareto rule, as you mentioned, 80% versus the 20%, it's well known.
So if you think about 2023, would you be able to share what your priorities for the data platform and ML solutions that you are working at RenoFi are?
So so far I just talked about things we've been focusing on, but from day one, there are some data products we want to invest in, and that they would be a core product of RenoFi in a sense. So there's one that which we call not risk, but a score. We wanted to score renovations. We wanted, once we collect all the information about what people renovate, about their financials, about all those projects, we wanted to score them. So to give our lenders more or less an idea that, okay, this project, we give it score 7 or 8, which means they will definitely, it's not too hard. They have a good background, they have good financials, they have a good contractor with a track history of renovations. They are good, so maybe that's our score could impact interest rate, maybe not interest, but some other costs. If someone gets lower score, then it would mean, okay, this is, we are not 100%, we give it a stamp of approval, they will finish, but we are uncertain about how long will it take, really, because it's a complex product, let's say, and the budget is tight. It's on the line, in a sense, and that maybe it will go over, maybe not. We are not sure. So this is one of the projects, and we already did a version of it where we had a bunch of rules, bunch of heuristics. And I can tell a little bit about it, because I think we use a nice solution for it, because we wanted to test from all our existing projects how these rules will work. And to do it quickly, we thought, okay, so this rules engine, let's call it like that, requires about 30 data points, 30 features, let's say. So how do we do it? Will we do it as maybe a separate application where we create our own database, we'll pull into those all required data points, and then have some web interface? And yeah, that would work. But then we also had maybe we will do it in the warehouse. But hold on, but implementing so many rules in SQL is really hard. And how do you test it? With DBT, you can test something, but it's still not very efficient. So what we decided at the time to just test the rules, we decided to implement it as a UDF JavaScript function. So we wrote all the code in JavaScript. We used tests to test all the rules. So every test was, we had a test for every rule, then for all the calculations, everything well tested with BDD and Cucumber. And okay, that works in isolation with test data. Now let's upload this package JavaScript to Google Cloud Storage, create on BigQuery a macro, and then just use it with DBT to score and to visualize the scores inside Looker. And I must say that worked really nice, at least when it comes to iteration. Keep the logic as a separate package, which later could be used by application. It's just a package that you give it 30 data points, and that package is, so I think Snowflake you could use UDFs in Python. BigQuery you only can write user-defined function in JavaScript. So that's why the main reason why we decided to use JavaScript. But when it comes to working with it, you can version, you can create many UDFs. So obviously it was a lot of iteration. So visualize, give our business people a nice dashboard. Okay, for this project, this is the score. This is all the data inputs to be used. This is and so on and so on. So it was easy to validate. But obviously we want to move there are always going to be rules. Even if you have an ML or some, it's only part of overall projects usually. You just, ML checks maybe the feasibility based on some data input. But anyhow, you will always have some rules in every product. So if anyone thinks about or has a solution or has a problem and looks for a solution, in my experience, using UDF and JavaScript with BigQuery works nicely. So this is one data product that we will focus in and focus more in next year. And another one is this after-renovation value, which is a massive project that we always wanted to do, but it's a big complexity. At the moment, what RenoFi does to estimate after-renovation value is to hire people for that. So there are two reasons for that. A, it's required by lender that you have an appraiser, a person that will say or give his stamp of approval that after renovations, given this spec of renovations, the value will increase. And there's obviously problems because market changes. And I would say that it's good that we didn't went for a automated model, because in this market, having a good model is it's hard to say the least. It's very hard. You would have to have a good team of talented people to take into consideration all the changing world market and what's happening outside to get a good valuation of a property. So at the moment, we still defer to people, appraisers, but we want to build something that we can use at least for subset of the projects we see. Because if someone renovates kitchens, renovates or add ADU, it's just another kind of apartment in your property, like another that you want to rent. So we could try to estimate what would be the value after renovation. But that's a second problem that we want to focus on. From the BI, because I mentioned a little bit what our data analytics for business intelligence is, we don't plan a lot of changes because we are really happy with it. The challenges will be about developing some projects that use data for automated valuations and for that scoring of products, or just moving on with them because we already done some of it. We will not go much more into the detail.
Yeah, it's really interesting use case where even more data and even more ML AI can be used. And we talked about your future plans, but maybe let's talk more about the past. So I have a final question that I would like to ask you. In one of your answers, you mentioned that when you joined RenoFi, you discovered that your CTO already had made a number of good decisions related to data and data platform, and you were very happy about them. So could you tell more about those decisions?
I think the best decision was that when you are a startup, that you will hire a consultancy that has an expertise. And a good decision was, RenoFi is based in Philadelphia. And Fishtown Analytics, which created DBT, was based in Philadelphia. So they, I think, knew each other to the degree. And the good thing that my CTO has done was to hire them to help to set up our data infrastructure. So I think that's a good recommendation, that you don't build from scratch if you don't have an expertise in-house, but you will hire someone at least for few months to set it up, to give you the best practices that are currently on the market. Maybe you would have still someone available from here and then when it's required. And in-house, what you should focus on are on analytics engineers. And by analytics engineers, I mean people that work with DBT and they know enough. They can code. They can, work effectively in command line, standard programming practices and tests. And all the modern data stack is no-code solutions in a sense, which for the size of startup which is RenoFi, it's just great. Obviously, I didn't talk about the cost of it, which is I think would require another episode of this podcast. But it always depends. You cost of people versus cost of a service, and that service, it's their product. They keep improving it. They have expertise in-house to improve all the ingestion and maintenance of it. People, from my experience, I know I built in the past, in previous company, kind of solution for ingest third-party data. Let's say it's kind of stitch Fivetran, but very low level for engineers, but had some practices. Keep maintaining all the connectors, checking what version has changed, improvements also on the destination warehouses. Things are changing. I wouldn't like to do it again. It's fun when you do it first time. It might be fun also when you discover the problems that you've done in the first run, and then you can rebuild it and do it better. But then people don't want to maintain things that upgrading the versions. It should be automated. Either you pay for it or you have a solution that just work.
Yes, that's true. And usually if you have vendors such as DBT Labs or Google Cloud Platform, then if they are successful, they have a very big leverage for their solutions because they can have like hundreds or even thousands of users, companies. So it's cost efficient and it makes sense to them to invest in their solutions thanks to this economy of scale. So they can keep improving them by adding new functionalities, especially the ones that you won't be able to implement by yourself. Because sometimes it would be simply too expensive to develop some custom or some like big feature only for yourself because you won't have this economy of scale and the same leverage as they have.
Yes, yeah, and so I think everyone sees that these days that you will try to outsource many of those problems to vendors. Either it's a Stitch, Fivetran, so Airbyte it's open source, but I think someone can maintain it or you can maintain it. And also I think many, even data warehouses got BigQuery or GCPs or Snowflake goes this way that they will have their own integrations with some tools, and you just let's say in Snowflake you will have ingest data from Salesforce. And you pay for it instead of using Stitch. So I think market goes that way. There's going to be more centralizations and unification of tools. Data space has too many tools, in my opinion, too many workflows managers, and so on and so on. Sometimes I have a headache when I see all the diagrams, what's out there. You probably see also in GetInData that the tools that you've been recommending 3 years ago are not the same tools that you recommend this year. The turnover, it's huge. What we try, but that's one of the things I'm waiting in the ML space to get a winner like DBT in a data modeling space where it's more declarative, where I can say, use this data, then retrain it with some policies that I declare. Something like in Terraform, I just write some template, and it does it for me. It's relatively so. It has to be popular. Community has to be big, same as in DBT. So hopefully that will happen. I see Vertex AI has many nice solutions already. So we'll see where will it go, but it's still hard. You need to have a good expertise in ML to build that operational practices, and you be certain that it will work, and you don't have to worry too much about it. At the moment, maybe I don't have enough expertise. That might be a reason, but it's still hard.
So hopefully we'll see some healthy consolidation in the data landscape so that there will be great tools that are easy to pick and will not have to change the technologies so often. So maybe DBT will be a mainstream tool that everyone is happy about and everyone is using. Let's see where it goes. And this will conclude our podcast episode. So I would like to thank you, Michał, for this conversation and sharing the knowledge with us.
Thanks.
you.